I get really annoyed when we try to boil things down into a single cause, and I think this is in the academic sort of research game. The cause is really what often happens. I mean, there's lots of different reasons why this happens, but what often happens is that the expectation in scientific journals is that there is a single cause that is very clear and everybody sees what this particular thing is, and it's sort of cookie, um, like it's a cookie cutter approach, and that there should be this sort of single one line that you take away and it will be make news headlines. And now I have to think about the sort of complexity of my own life, and I couldn't tell you one particular cause of anything. Um, I want to sort of talk about that or think about that, right? Like I was thinking about food, for example, or hunger. Um, I mess around with diets and things like that. And partly it's just because of curiosity and sort of thinking about things. What is my food intake? And there's a lot of reasons why something happens. Or, even when you just think about hunger, for example, there's tons of reasons why you want to eat, why you have those hunger reasons, sort of hunger um, pains, and it's not just because of food, right? It's not just because that you need some sort of nutrient. Boiling things down, that's ultimately, I mean, it's a very simplistic view, but we do need food to survive, and that sort of at the hierarchical level, at the sort of ultimate level, that's the reason why we eat. But we know if we look around a population around the world, there's a billion people that are obese. And the number is around a billion people, from what I understand, that are obese. So it's not just about food in the sense of we need it to survive and we have this sort of idealistic notion. If that was the case, if it was just about survival, our sort of body would go into a homeostasis, and we'd only eat just as much as we would need, and our body would sort of keep the same level all the time. But we know that's just not true. We eat for lots of different reasons. We eat because we are bored. We eat because we sort of love. I love food. I legitimately love food and the feeling that I get and the smells that I get. We eat for intellectual reasons, right? Because that's what I'm saying right now, right? I play around with this stuff, sort of see, experiment, quasi, sort of half-baked experiment with the effects of what happens when I eat in different ways. Um, we eat because we want to be around people and to talk with people. It's a very much a social thing. I don't like eating by myself. Right? I really don't like eating by myself. It seems lonely. Um, and so for at least for me, many times, even when I'm eating quote unquote by myself, I like to eat within the context of other people, of going to a cafeteria or a restaurant, so I don't feel quite so alone. When I go to conferences, academic conferences, I don't like to eat in my hotel room. I feel very lonely when I do that. So I go out for a walk and go eat at a restaurant by myself. I want you to think about that, right? Like all of these interesting aspects that we forget about, and things single or things that exist in this world are not because of single causes, right? They're very small amount that we boil it down, and that's even within these academic papers where they say that this is the single cause, right? This is why something happens. You look at it, and the effect size is usually terrible, right? It explains something like a couple percentage points of what's actually going on, and even then, can we actually trust those results? And the truth is we can't. right? We have to do many, many, many studies to figure out what's going on. And when you even do those, the effect size is tiny. And then there's, tiny in proportion to what else is going on, right? We might explain 5% of what's actually going on. That would be pretty darn good. But in reality, there's 95% that were unexplained, that we can't put our fingers on. So as me, as somebody that looks at this, I would say, hey, wait a minute. It's wonderful we have that 5%, but what about the 95%? There's many other things that are going on, and we can't boil it down into one particular thing. So I'm pretty pessimistic about the nature of science in terms of understanding things. I'm very pessimistic about it. Um, and I think we should be incorporating things, and I hate this word because I think it's sort of been taken in out of context, but more holistically, in the sense that we need to understand all of the different factors but what's actually going on. And once we do that, once we appreciate, it's not necessarily understand, but appreciate that the world is complicated, that there's many reasons why something happens, that the tools that we have to explain a complicated world are terrible. They're terrible in terms of explaining what's going on. And we know this as scientists, as researchers, we know that these tools are really terrible. But, you know, taking it back and saying, wait a minute, the world is just complicated. And if that's the case, if the world is complicated, why don't we just appreciate it as is? Why do we actually need to often boil things down? And that's part of the problem that I often see. And it's sort of a bit of a frustration of mine when you actually try to apply what you learn, you can't apply it. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit because we're looking at sort of one particular thing. That's not the reason why something happens. We have to look at everything. That's why we have medicine, and then that's why we have biology. There's a big difference between biology, human biology, and medicine. A massive difference. Do I think biology can explain a little bit? Yes. But will we be able to sort of explain everything with biology? I don't think so. I think the world is too complicated. We still need the art of how things actually happen in this world. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.